So when can you start early voting? Now. Now, that's right. You may have already, has anyone actually voted? There we go. We've got some voters. Friday was the first day. That's great. Tomorrow you can go out and cast your vote for the primary up until June 18th. So we're going to do a little bit of Q&A. Not a ton, but a little bit. Here's how it'll work. If you have a question for a specific candidate, Gary, Paul, Gloria, you can ask them. They'll have 1 minute to respond. That's it. If you have a general question that you'd like to hear all of them answer briefly, they'll have 1 minute each. You all know from past experience, I like to keep the time. So we will go through that as quickly as we can to get as many of your questions in as we can. Are you ready? Anybody have a question? Right there. The other two candidates, so Paul already mentioned his 13. Gloria and Gary, can you give us a quick, will you, when you answer, hold this pretty microphone, and in 1 minute, tell us what you think about the Supreme Court.
I love Gary's idea. I wish I had thought of it. So I'm all for expanding the Supreme Court.
Paul's idea.
Paul's idea. Paul's idea. Okay, Paul's idea, because we really do probably need to expand a Supreme Court because they've gotten hijacked by partisan politics, and we got to do something about that.
And I'm going to follow with saying I agree also. The thing that we have to be careful for is it needs to be based on something, because we know when it comes time for the other side to be in power, they're going to take it to an extreme. So as long as it's based on something, then I think that we should go ahead and do it.
So there's two quick questions here. One is, you all have spent some time together now. Have you noticed any differences among you? And second was, we heard a little bit from Gloria about Israel and Palestine. Anything from Gary or Paul on that? Why don't we start with Gloria, since you've already gone, and we'll work back. But again, 1 minute each. Thank you.
So I'm just going to answer the part about what's different about us. We really do have similar philosophies. I think it's about our approach. I'm much more, my real work now as a small business owner is a global executive coach. So I'm all about listening and driving results and kind of a distiller of stories to make forward progress. So that to me is my unique skill set. The gentlemen they've got that Army background. They're willing to take it on. So I've always said I'm not a fighter. I'm fight with words and ideas and make forward progress. So I think that's a big differentiator for me and the men. They've got the military background. They come with that skill set.
Great. Paul?
So to quote the Cardinal News the other day, they said we agree to agree. So I think that's probably about accurate. As far as Israel goes, the attack on October 7th was unconscionable, and those people that were taken by the Hamas was tragic. And Israel's response was to defend themselves, what they had the right to do. However, now it's disproportionate. There's 33,000 dead. There's rubble that was going to take 15 years, 370 tons of rubble. There's 7,000 people missing. And so we, as the American government, and I know, believe me, there's stuff going on behind the scenes. It's a hot mess over there. It's not just the Levant. It's Iran, it's Syria, and the great powers competition that goes with it. And so we have to be conscious of that. But Israel is disproportionate in what they're doing. They won't stop. They want to attack Rafah. So we need to try to rein them in a little bit and take them in a different direction.
Good. Thank you.
Good. The answer to your first question, my background is varied. I've spent a lot of time in corporate America, a lot of time in nonprofit sector, and also have ran a couple of companies. So I think that the skills that I've learned with all of that background make me the best candidate. I believe that you should be able to work with folks across the aisle, but if not, then you use all the other tools that you have to get the job done. Now, as far as Israel and our stance, I believe that as the leader of the free world, we have to support our strongest ally in the Middle East. No questions. Now, we do supply them with aid. I believe that we have to have some conditions on that because, as both of the other candidates have said, it's gotten way past the tit for tat. 30,000 people have been killed. 30,000. By proxy, we're connected to that. So we have to be very, very careful. We have to rein them in because people are looking at us also as leader of the free world, and they are our ally.
Great.
So,
Thank you, Gary.
yes.
Yeah, right. All right, so I'm going to call an audible here. Those are two great questions. So we're going to give you extra 2 minutes,
2 minutes.
on these because that's when you ask that good a question, you get a little extra sauce.
Okay. 2 minutes. Okay, climate change is real. I believe it, okay? It has been classified by the U.S. military as one of the greatest threats to our national security. So it's real. I think we need to take steps, or we are taking steps. We rejoined the Paris Accord. But that's only part of the problem. We've got 2 or 3 other nations that put out more pollution than we do. So again, as the leader of the free world, we have to work with those countries to try to help them to restrict their output of carbon gases into our atmosphere. So 1, take care of ourselves. 2, work with the other countries to try to limit their carbon emissions also. Okay. Now the second question, what was it again?
What will you do to support?
Oh, okay. I tell people this, and I hate to say this, I don't like to lose. I don't like to lose, okay? So I plan on winning. But in the event, in the very small chance that I do lose, I am going to throw my weight behind the eventual winner. I will be their campaign manager on the South Side. So we have to do everything that we can to win this election. That's important.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Let's see, regarding climate change, yes, we need to deal with climate change. Biden's administration passed, I believe it's the Inflation Reduction Act, and it really deals with this idea of climate change and transitioning to electric vehicles and improving the grid, et cetera. My previous corporate work was in nuclear, carbon-free energy solutions, as well as wind and solar, et cetera. And I think all that mix is necessary for us to reduce carbon. It's not either or. I think it needs to be a mix because each one of them got their own constraints. And so that would be my perspective on climate change, really leaning into transitioning the country and expanding the options and reducing fossil fuels because we know they are a contaminant to our environment. Regarding what would I do if I lost, I would do what I've always done before I stood up and got in the ring. I am actively engaged in voter engagement. Through my nonprofit work as the president of NAACP and a member for the last 25 years. I love canvassing. I love calling people up, and now I'm into postcarding. So I would do my work in Amherst County. I've always done my work in Amherst County.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, so we're at a tipping point right now with the Earth, and whether anybody wants to believe it or not. And so we have to embrace new technology at a rapid pace, and we need to rein in our carbon, fixation with carbon fuels, and we need to do that now. If anybody's checking outside, you know, it's going to be in the 80s again, just starting up this week. And so we're losing glaciers, the sea levels are rising, and the military does have a plan in place for rising sea levels. And so there's too many things out there that we need to bring in. And it would bring growth into this area as well. There's cutting edge carbon technology capture, where they suck the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and turn it back into a fuel that can be reused so it becomes a zero-sum game. We need to invest in high-speed rail and get the airplanes out of the air because, you know, those are one of the biggest polluters up there running their trails through the atmosphere. And so we need to focus on that and really, really invest in that future and not be short-sighted and try to go as big as we can because, you know, we don't know if we don't try. You know, if we try and we fail, then we say we tried and we move on to something else. Hydrogen. We need to invest in safe hydrogen energy, you know, because that's at the forefront, and same thing with batteries and things like that. The list goes on. It's a laundry list of things we need to do, and we need to do it now and not tomorrow. And then if I do lose, which I'm not going to, I will wholeheartedly do whatever they humbly ask me to do. If they need me to go to Clarksville, I'll drive down to Clarksville. If they need me to go to any rural area, if they need me to go to a DM, a disabled military veterans or VFW, and talk to the people there, I'll gladly do it. 100% behind them.
So question here is on biodiversity loss, and so just to give a little direction to the candidates, I think what we're asking for is specifics here. So if you don't have those, she'll let you research later. But if you do, let's hear them today. Like, what are the specifics that we can deal with right now?
Well, I'm going to be the first to fall on the sword. I have not investigated the topic. I have no recommendations, but I will start doing my homework.
Okay.
So biodiversity is a challenge. It's called the windshield test, and as you see it, growing up in the 70s, insects would plaster your windshield, and you couldn't see out of it. You have to stop every 5 miles and clean it off. But now you drive down the road, you can go 3 hours, and you get like maybe one bug. So it's imperative that we get our insect population back up and across the board, and we really need to focus on not just the other third world countries, second world countries, but our own country and the things that we are not doing. We're not investing in getting our species back up to where we need to be. They want to take more rights away from the Endangered Species Act and things like that. So we need to stop that, and we need to stop the pollution. There's a big thing up in the Adirondacks now. They're running out of money, and they're the bellwether, frankly, for the United States with acid rain and things of that nature. So yeah, biodiversity is a huge thing that we need to fix. Like I said, it goes hand in hand with the climate change, because hotter weather is creating a lot of this problem, and so we need to fix it now.
Gary?
I think I need to do a little bit more research also, but I can tell you this. I'll tell you what I know. Climate change does affect our biodiversity also. The other thing is that we use Monsanto, those kind of organizations that make herbicides. Yes, thank you. Herbicides, and we know that they are decreasing our bee population. If bees die, we die. So it's that simple. So we have to look at what it is that we're putting in the earth to try to increase the yields of, our farmlands, to make sure that we're not killing off, insects that are useful to us. They're part of the food chain, and I think that that's one of the things that we have to take a look at. So I can stop there because I'm not done a lot more research, but
And
sure.
if I can, before
Right.
I take another question, if I can take 30 seconds just to answer this and what you just said, we should brag more about what the Biden administration does. Just this week, the Biden administration, through the Inflation Reduction Act, put out standard aviation fuel guidance for all biofuels companies across this country, and included in that are some incentives that if you'll make your fuel green or carbon neutral, you'll get a little bit of a tax credit. And one of the 3 things you must do is apply fertilizers that won't destroy all of the pollinators that are out there. So the Biden population, even at the sub levels, is doing, I'm sorry, I'm spitting all over you, is doing great work, and we need to be able to brag about that more. Okay, I always hate it when we miss people who are lower. So you, ma'am, yes, ma'am. What will you do about our military budget and an over-reliance on the military?
As opposed to diplomacy.
As opposed to diplomacy, thank you.
You're going to ask that of a military person. Okay, this is one thing I will tell you. I do think that there is a lot of waste, okay, in our military. There is. I don't know where it's at. None of us knows where it's at. We have to find that out. But also, there are a lot of threats out there. We have to be careful. I don't know if you've heard of this new hypersonic missile or whatever. I won't get into all of the minutia about it, but that's a threat. And right now, we don't have anything to counter that. So while I think that we do have a lot of bloat in our military budget, on the other side, we have to be very careful that we don't cut to the bone, to the point that we're not the preeminent military in the United States or in the world, and that we can protect ourselves and protect our allies. So that's a side answer, but I don't think that we know enough. I know some of the threats. I know we need money for that, but
Well, as a retiree, I can tell you right now, I am thoroughly convinced we don't have to fund the military for 5 years and they would keep on going. There is so much money they don't know that they have. They are supposed to do an audit, a yearly audit, and they can't do it, and they fail every time they do it. So that's a tell right there that we need to rein that in, and they need to pass an audit and tell us where our money is going. Our military budget is way bigger than anybody else's in the world by leaps and bounds. And so I'm thoroughly convinced we need to rein it back a little bit and earmark some of that money for other programs that really do need it. And the diplomacy, they're supposed to go hand in hand with the military. And frankly, we're not quite there on some of the aspects. And USAID is out there, and the State Department and all that. And it should all be together as one package and work their magic. But a lot of times, we try to use that 500-pound bomb to stamp out an idea, just like Israel's doing. It doesn't work. So that's why you need diplomacy.
Good, thank you. Gloria?
Well, when it comes to budgetary considerations, to me, it's about tying your budget to your strategy. And based on the needs to keep America protected, then I think we need to fund it accordingly. And that's just basic budgeting versus strategy. You got to meet the needs of the strategy. And we need to stay ahead of our enemies. When it comes to diplomacy, I think I'll steal a page from Carter. I do believe that when you have to fight about something, you've stopped listening. And everybody loses. So to me, diplomacy is the right way to go about it. And it's not... We like to put timelines on things, but sometimes progress takes time. And so to me, diplomacy is the real strength and not so much dropping bombs, etc., although you need your weapons as a deterrent.
So for Gary and Gloria, how do we get great teachers to stay? How do we address the teacher shortage?
How do you get great teachers to stay? One of my pillars is rethink education. I do think that the way teachers are being controlled through the process of teaching has taken the joy out of teaching for the adult as well as the children. My daughter is a teacher, and my husband's family were teachers and principals. We have train-wrecked public education. And how do we re-incentivize? Pay your living wage. I mean, pay you the amount of money you deserve for the skills that you have. And it's like Paul say, when you can't even afford to buy a home and you've got student loans hanging over your head, I think those things need to be dealt with. And as we move into the future, and if we deliver on our career technical training for the 60% of youth who don't go to school, that's going to challenge the whole system of who the teachers are and how do we pay them. So we need to pay you. We need to acknowledge that we got crazy going on in the curriculum and slow things down. It's ridiculous if you become a test factory and you're stripping the joy out of your skill set as well as the student that has to endure.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a couple of friends that are administrators for school systems, not here in Virginia. One is in Ohio, one is in Texas. And they've said the same thing. They're losing teachers because of pay. So we need to pay our teachers better. Anytime a teacher is using their own money to pay for supplies, that's a problem. And then number two, because of a teacher shortage, we're starting to see classrooms that have ratios that are way out of whack. You have a teacher that's teaching 30 kids instead of 15 to 20 kids. That can run someone away. So those two things I think we need to address first, teacher pay and then also ratios. Now, as part of infrastructure, we need to ensure that, that the facilities that they work in are up to date and comfortable. I know of schools that still don't have air conditioning. So that needs to be taken care of because it's not conducive for teaching, nor is it conducive for learning. So in my mind, those three things for our teachers. If we can do those, then I think we'll be good.
Thank you.
All right, it's a start.
Okay, a few things. Number one, we have a couple kind of practical things for all of you There are 3 things that you can do practically. Number 1, if you had a question tonight that they didn't answer, sometimes we want to know their answer. Sometimes we want to make sure they've been asked the question. My email is cvilledemschair@gmail.com. You can send me those questions. I will put them all together in the next few days and get them in front of all of our candidates to see how they respond. Number 2, these are your options. There they are. So you can vote starting tomorrow to go out and cast your vote for whom you believe would be the best person to go out and kick No Bueno's. I like that. I love that. That's great. And I'm going to make the ask for them as somebody who had to ask this question a lot. Please give them some money, right? If there's somebody up here tonight who really you identify and you think they're the person to go represent us, go home, find their website, and send them a little cash and help them do that job. I want to thank all of our candidates for coming tonight and being here with us. I want to thank the Albemarle Dems for organizing and for all of the free food right over there. And finally, I want to introduce my co-chair for a couple very, very brief announcements, the great Nancy Dane.
I think you should have said the very short Nancy Dane. Okay. 2 things I want to remind you of. Well, actually 3. Chuck Moran, thank you so much for recording this. We'll put it up so people... Okay. Second, the City Dems are having their summer bash on Friday, June the 7th from 6 to 8 on the lawn outside of the Jefferson School African American Heritage Center. Tickets are available. Sponsorships are available. We've raised a lot of money, but we hope to hire some young people to work on the youth vote and other things. So we hope you'll think even more than just buying a ticket and a little more, okay? And the last thing is this. I don't know, how many of you all have heard of rural ground game? Okay, not many. Okay, I am having a meet and greet at our house on Wednesday, May the 15th. Rural Ground Game does what should be done. They work with candidates in the western part of the state, which includes the 5th district. And last year, I think they helped 62 different candidates to work on their elections and get elected. They also are doing other messaging. We're going to be doing texting, and not to ask for money, but texting to put out issues. Very important. And this is going to be an information and fundraising thing. It's going to be at my house, and I will stand somewhere so you can find out how to find my house and come to it if you want to. Thank you very much.